I just clogged my toilet before recording this video. That's always a good sign of faith. But what is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we're taking a look at another NECA Aliens figure, specifically the Night Cougar, and later on in the video there will be a surprise, and which is the Panther. The recording process got a little weird. I wasn't planning to get the Panther, but I found it yesterday by accident. But we have two things to review, just like the Rhino video. If it all seems a little out of place or in order, that's because, like I said, I bought the Night Cougar first, recorded the entire video for it, then I found the Panther, and I was like, fuck, that's happening now. But besides that, let's jump into the review, starting off with some lore. Unfortunately, when it comes to the lore of these guys, there isn't too much known about them. There's a few paragraphs on Xenopedia that helps shed some light about them, but that's pretty much it. After that, there isn't really anything known about these guys. So getting into it, the Night Cougar and the Panther Alien originate from a cat-like organism, and because of their different skin colors, with the Night Cougar's red and black and the Panther having a golden brownish tone to their skin, it's theorized that they originate from two different hives, but from the same strain, just different hives. So they're cousins in some kind of way. And besides them being cat-like and crawling on all fours and being more agile than a normal xenomorph, what makes them really special is that they have a Parasyte on their back that they can throw at a target or an enemy, and that Parasyte is known as the Kamikaze Parasyte because when it makes contact with the target, it explodes. And really, that's pretty much all we know about these guys. That they're cousins from, they're same tree, different branches, and they both have these Kamikaze Parasytes. And yeah, so hopefully we can see these guys in some more Aliens content soon, but for the time being, this is all we know. And yeah, okay, now into the actual review. So starting off the review with the Night Cougar, looking at the box, it's the generic alien box art, but it's still looking good nonetheless. We can see the rest of the line. We have a majority of these aliens, some that I do have my eye on, but there's the Panther Alien, which we'll take a look at later. But here is the artwork coming at you, and then the figure itself looking real good. You can kind of see my face. I really don't like it when people see my face, but yeah, and then pulling him out of the box, all tied up and bind. But first impressions, just off of visuals, he's looking real good. Awesome sculpting, awesome painting, as per usual by NECA, and I really like black and red, so I might have a little bit of bias here. So getting into articulation as per usual, starting off with the head, he has some of the best head articulation I've seen on a xenomorph figure, and granted this is needed because he is on all fours, so he's going to have to look up a lot, but he can look up and down, tilt his head side to side, pretty much look wherever you want him to look, and it's just really good head articulation for a xenomorph. But then when we get to the arms are a little iffy. Granted, he will be on all fours most of the time, so he doesn't really need to bring his arms up as much as a normal xenomorph would, but it is sad to see some of limited articulation in his arm. And then getting to the elbow articulation, he can bring his forearm up a good amount. Granted, this is going to be needed because, like I said, he's going to be on all fours. Articulation is going to be based on the fact that he is going to be on all fours, so I'm going to be saying that a lot. But elbow articulation is really good. You can bring that forearm up a good amount. And then getting to the wrist, it is pretty much the same as any other xenomorph figure. Full 360 and bend pretty much however you want. And then when we get to the torso articulation is really good. He can do a full 360 if you wanted him to, and he can do back and forth, side to side, pretty much however you want. So some of the best torso articulation I've also seen in a xenomorph figure, so very happy with that. And getting to the legs, in the standing position, the leg articulation at the thighs isn't the greatest, but when we get it to a position where he's going to be on all fours, it is a little bit better. And he's double jointed, I think that's the expression or the term, where he's got knee articulation, and then he's got, I don't know anatomy, I'm so stupid, but basically he's got two joints on the legs and they bend really well. You can straighten them out to have one really cursed straight leg. And then the feet articulation is a little bit different because it is a different kind of foot, but it pretty much works the same as any other xenomorph foot. You can bend it, rotate it however you want for posability, And this guy's feet are actually a pain in the ass when it comes to stands because the holes are a little too tight, so I've gone through 3 stands because of him. And then getting to the tail, you can rotate it 360 degrees at the base, and then of course the tail you can manipulate pretty much however you want. And he's got this like cool little stinger at the end of it that we haven't really seen on any other xenomorphs. There have been xenomorphs with different types of tails, but this one is really different from the other ones we've seen, so that is very cool. And yeah, articulation overall is pretty solid on this guy. So going into the one accessory included with this guy, and that is the Kamikaze Parasyte. This little boy, the sculpting is actually really good. There's a lot of little details there. The paint job isn't too crazy, but it gets the point across, and I really kind of think it's awesome how much detail they put into this little dude. And just like it's stated in the lore, the dude does go on the back, and it's actually kept together with a magnet, so the only way it's coming off is if you like shake it really hard like you saw there. But he just fits on nice and snug, and as long as you don't manhandle it, he is not coming off. So I think that's a really cool feature on NECA's part, and the magnet is just a really nice touch. And just like I started doing in the Arachnoid video, I want to compare the variant to the standard drone. We are using the Aliens drone as a reference because that's probably the most popular alien movie to date, so I think that's a good default example. And starting off with the head, with the Aliens drone having a long cylindrical head, kind of looking like a penis, whereas the Night Cougar alien has a shorter head. It's a little thicker, and it has fins on the side of its skull, kind of like the Arachnoid alien did. Another difference between their heads besides size and shape is that the Aliens drone has a ribbed head, whereas the Night Cougar head is smooth. Then moving our way down to their shoulders, we can see that the Aliens drone has a tall and round shoulder piece, whereas the Night Cougar has a still round but shorter shoulder piece. Then when it comes to their backs, their spines, the Aliens drone has 5 spines, 4 being identical, with the top one being thinner and sharper. And then if we take a look at the Night Cougar, he actually doesn't have any kind of spines at all. And then if we move down to the arms, they both have similar shaped arms. The Night Cougar's arms are a little bit thinner, and the only other difference besides their size is that the Aliens drone has a ribbed arm all the way from the shoulder down, whereas the Night Cougar has more of a veiny look to his arms. And then moving to the waist down immediately, we can see a huge difference in their legs. If we look at the Aliens drone, we can see that aliens, or just normal drones, have bipedal legs that are almost human-like, where the Night Cougar and Night Panther have these hind legs that are animal-like, like a cat or a dog, or just any wild animal that you can think of that usually has 4 legs. And then transitioning off from the legs, the feet of these xenomorphs are completely different. Look at the normal drone, he has big flat feet, whereas the Night Cougar and Night Panther have these smaller, more curved feet that are more agile. And one last major difference that we can see between the normal drone and the Night Cougar / Panther is in their tail. We can see that most of the tail is in a similar build, but once we get to the end, the normal drone just has a point at the end of their tail. Sometimes you'll see daggers there, but most times than not, it's just a point, whereas the Night Cougar and Night Panther have this flat, kind of scorpion-like looking stinger at the end of their tail. And one last comparison I want to make with the Night Cougar and Panther Alien is to another 4-legged alien variant, and that is the Rhino Alien. Now in comparison, the Rhino Alien is massive when next to the Night Cougar and Panther Alien, and I thought it'd just be cool to show these two 4-legged variants side by side. So here we have the Night Cougar Alien. Now originally this video was going to be just about this guy, and I wasn't even going to bother touching the Panther like I said before, but shortly after this guy we will take a deep dive into the Panther. But just focusing on this guy for just a second, I think that this guy is very cool looking. I really like how he looks. The color scheme, I'm a sucker for red and black, so that, obviously caught my eye almost immediately. But I think he just looks really cool. He's not the most wackiest or unique looking variant of Alien, but I still think he's cool nonetheless. Now getting down to the sculpting and painting done by NECA, and as per usual, just an amazing job. Just they don't skip out on anything when it comes to painting and sculpting. Everything looks amazing. I really like how he looks, And I really like what they did with the skull, how it kind of looks like cataracts, just like this weird kind of foggy look. Something I don't think we've seen transparent shells on aliens, but not like this at least I don't think so. But I think that this guy is just very cool looking, and you know, very happy that I did pick him up, add him to my collection of xenomorph figures. And yeah, when it comes to articulation, I think this is some of the best articulation I've seen on a xenomorph. Granted, the legs are a little iffy because they're not made for bipedal legs, so I can't really compare that to normal xenomorphs. But when it comes to torso and head articulation, some of the best I've ever seen, and I hope that we get more of that kind of articulation for more xenomorph figures to come. But overall, despite him not being the most craziest or wacky looking variant of Alien, I think that this is a very good figure, and I do recommend it if you are trying to easily expand your xenomorph collection. So when it comes down to the Panther Alien, we're not going to cover articulation because comparing the articulation between the two, it's exactly the same. They're a re-release of each other. There's nothing different besides their paint jobs. But taking a look at the Kamikaze Parasyte that does come with the Panther, it comes in a transparent orange, really similar to that one variant of the Rhino Alien. The sculpting is exactly the same. The only difference is the color, obviously. And just like with the Night Cougar, the Parasyte does stick on via magnet, so, you know, magnets for everyone. I don't know why I'm showing you this, if obviously these guys are one for one when it comes to accessories and stuff, but trying to keep the video as long as I possibly can because I really like doing that. But now I'm just rambling and calling myself out. So yeah, Kamikaze Parasyte sticks on via magnet, very cool. So when it comes to comparing the Night Cougar and the Panther, really the only difference is their paint job, because they both share the same articulation and sculpt. So looking at the paint job, when we see the Night Cougar, he only really has 3 colors at most going on: red, black, and some kind of gray on his skull, where if we look at the Panther, he's got a lot going on. He's got some gold, some brown, a little bit of yellow, some light gray, some black thrown in there to make some details pop out. There's a lot of going on, and in the words of my father, he looks like a McDonald's french fry. And if you couldn't guess already which one I like more, it would have to be the Night Cougar. I really like the dark color schemes that xenomorphs have. Not saying there's anything wrong with the bright color schemes seen on some variants, because like I really like the Razor Claw Aliens color scheme, the arcade appearance specifically, but I just really like that just black, red, and gray color palette, and I think it just makes the Panther or the Night Cougar look really menacing. Not saying the Panther doesn't look menacing, I'm just saying the color palette on the Night Cougar just adds to the intimidation factor. At least that's how I feel about it. So tell me down below, which one do you like more? Do you like the Night Cougar or the Panther? It's up to you. There is no wrong answer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video for the Panther, and pretty much everything I have to say for the Night Cougar applies to the Panther. Obviously the paint job is different, so I will talk about that, and I think NECA did do a good job with the paint job on this guy. Yeah, I prefer the red and black color scheme over this one, but I still think NECA did a good job at making this like paint job look like a panther, like a mountain lion, where like the fur is more yellowish, goldish, beigeish on the top, and then of course as we get to the belly and under areas, it's white. So I like that little attention to detail. And one thing I actually forgot to go over when discussing the Night Cougar during the turntable segment was the things I actually don't like about the figure, because I know I talked about what I did like, which is obviously the painting, the sculpting, and just stuff like that, because let's be honest, when do I not like NECA's painting and sculpt work on a figure? But actually, 2 things that I'm kind of being nitpicky about are, well, kind of half nitpicky, well, you'll see what I mean. Basically, the hind legs for the Panther and Night Cougar are very like wonky. There's not much balance to it. They're very thin, so they don't really have much support for the body of the figure. So what that leads to is if you're trying to pose your Night Cougar or Panther in a leaping or attacking position, there's more times than not the figure will fall over, and you know, you can't get that pose you want, which is unfortunate. And there's even times where I try just standing the figure on, you know, his hind legs like he's standing like a person. And with the Night Cougar, I was able to get some success with that, but with the Panther, I was unable to. But it's his hind legs just aren't really, you know, supportive of his weight if you try getting him to do anything beyond being on all fours. And transitioning into that is using stands for these guys. Well, these guys, the holes on their feet are so tight that I've lost 4 stands while making this video. They've destroyed 4 NECA stands, and it's a little unfortunate. So if you do get these figures and you're like, oh, I'm gonna use NECA stands, be very careful, because these guys love ripping those pegs out off of the stands. Alright, basically with all that said, that is the review. This is the Alien, Panther, and Night Cougar, another variant of drone to add to my collection. And tell me down below, what do you like, the Night Cougar or the Panther? But like I say in all my outros, commenting is a lot of effort, so don't worry about it if you don't want to answer. But the main takeaway from this video, I think that these are solid xenomorph figures with solid articulation. The only issues I have with these figures are that their hind legs don't really like balancing them if they want to do anything that does not require all 4 of their limbs on the ground, and they tend to break stands easily because of how tight their holes on the bottom of the feet are. But with all that said, if you did think that this is a good video and you want to see more like this, I have more Alien reviews on the channel, but I also do some Halo and Star Wars stuff if you're interested in that as well. But if you did think that this was a good video, a like and a subscription would be more than enough. Commenting is a lot of effort, so don't worry about it unless you want to tell me your input on these figures. And the bell is broken, so don't worry about it. So with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in another one. I'm sorry if this video felt a little unprofessional or a little rushed. I wasn't expecting the Panther to show up in my cold hands.